Thanks for coming to my talk. My name is Mike Zupo, and this is Repurpose, Rethink, Repurpose, Reuse, Rain Hell. Try to get a little bit more functionality out of some of your devices, and moving forward, using that type of criteria with new devices that are coming out to quickly use them functionally. So, sorry, I'll go into that real quick. I know I have to put a legal disclaimer up here. I'm not too big on that type of shit. But, you know what, you're going to break your device through this type of talk. If you've never done it before, it's going to happen at some point in time. So I'm sorry, I can't be responsible for anything you do with this type of stuff, but I guess everybody knows that type of stuff anyways. Oh. Fuck.
We're done.
Yeah, that's it. All right, have a good day, guys. Fucking. It had to be XP, right? It had to be XP.
What?
I love Windows XP, man. Yeah, we're reusing stuff, right? You know, it's being frugal and you know.
You're just doing it.
That's it, man. It's all. Come on. Sorry, everyone. Of course, that has to happen. Okay, so I'm a hobbyist. I don't work for like an IT company, and anything I'm doing here has nothing to do with my job. I love this type of stuff, and I love talking about it. So I hope you guys are interested in the same sense. I'm still learning a lot about it, and the main thing is, if I can do this, you can do this. So it's simple, but there's really simple methodologies that get complicated as we go through it. Everybody knows Rob Ford, right? So today, how can we get more functionality out of some old devices that you own? The pace of these things coming out is awesome, right? The market competition's pushing them out like crazy. How can I actually run what I want to on these types of things? When I was a kid, the first computer I got was a Pentium 133, and it was awesome, man. It was quick. I could play Quake on it. These days, I'm getting a quad-core processor, and the thing's slow as shit. So why can't I use this the way I want to use it? Why can't I? So we're going to get into there. There's x86-based devices. There's a lot of ARM devices, and you have to translate. You know, there's intermediates and stuff to make sure that you can use desktop programs on an ARM device. x86 ones, it's almost, you know, there's no translation. You're good to go. So how can we use desktop software wherever you want? And screw Apple. I don't like Apple. Community's awesome. The only reason that I could ever learn anything like this and pass it on is because somebody else came up with it first. But they have different types of building blocks. So we put them together and we make our own type of solution. What do you need? What's your objective? It's easy. If you've ever jailbroken a phone, done a custom ROM, modded a console, ever thought about, you know, hacking, right? That's why we're here, isn't it? You can do this. Like any platform, the more people that are on it, are exposed to it, people with their own little innovations are going to push it forward. And that's what a lot of this is, where so many people came up with little tiny tweaks, and you add them together, and you finally get to where you want to be. With anything. So most of these devices, you need to get to the bootloader. And they're so generic, good luck trying to do that. You know, they've closed sourced it, they've not given you any tools, no factory support. How can I get in there? You can't. With anything, if you're up to the challenge, and so many people are with like cryptography and different types of hack methods here, sure, with time, you can hack anything and get in there. But what's that worth to you? What do you need to do, and what's your objective? So screw that. What have people done already? Why can't I use what they've done and then throw my spin on top of it? Do appreciate the process and the time, though. Like, they've done hard work, and to do it yourself is something different. So today, we're starting off where I got my inspiration was with the Nokia N900. It's an old phone with a whole bunch of awesome packed features in there that you can really use as long as you get creative. We're going to go into Android Root, which is, or Root, some kind of method to get a little more functionality on devices that are at least rooted, and to play in a I'll be careful with using that word virtualization, because it's not virtualized, but it's it acts in that same manner where you're not natively running it. One of my little fun projects, the Hack TV, the things you can do with Android and stuff, and as long as you get creative, you can do anything. Then we're going to x86 type devices, my Stream 7 project, which is where I got the inspiration for this type of talk. and then where we can go from there. And I'm going to go through some links, and I'm going to reference some stuff. I want to put all of it on my blog. I'm not a big blogger, and I don't really care about like ads or anything stupid like that, but I want to put everything in one spot for people to access. And then from there, you know, somebody else might have a better idea that they can throw at me, and then we'll go further, bouncing it back and forth. Things to consider. You're definitely going to screw up one of your devices. You're going to screw it up. If you've never done it before, just be prepared for that. And what are you going to do about it when it's screwed up? Can you go back? Do you have some kind of backup, recovery, restore point, something you can do to, you know, make sure it's not a brick? That's why junk phones, they're kind of half and half. You know, you've got an old, like, Motorola Atrix, let's say. It's got HDMI out, it's got USB. It's not a bad phone in general. It's a dual-core processor. But that overhead that you have on it, the bootloader that's locked down from Motorola, the challenge on there is not really efficient. The type of stuff you want to do, fuck that. It's not worth your money. The N900 was where I got all of my inspiration. This thing is like a little computer. Nokia released it in 2009, and it's got some pretty cool specs for 2009. Now we might laugh at it, but the fact that it's got some of this stuff is awesome. Sorry. It's got an infrared port that in the instruction manual wasn't even programmed. You had to do it off the bat, and then you get creative off it. The best thing is that it's running a Debian-based OS. So from there, you can install Debian-based packages and have a little bit of fun as long as you get creative with that. So in 2011, a developer, and I think he was contracted by a third party, he came out with an injection driver for the N900. So all of a sudden, you wanted to run web attacks, WPA cracking. You could do it on the phone. Now, maybe not cracking the WPA password, but you could get that handshake, send it off to somewhere else because you have a data connection on there. So as long as you get creative with it, sky's the limit. Pony Express came out with the first Pwn phone, and that was where they released a community image where you could literally take that SD card, load it into your phone, and have all of their apps pre-installed. Now, you could have done that by yourself. You could have manually got all these things, but they gave you a level playing ground for you to start learning on that stuff. The community started playing with it, and they keep coming out with more stuff. So they even came out with SDR support now for it. So anybody that's interested in software-defined radio, you could use this little tiny, $100 device now that you can connect to remotely, leave it where.
Hi folks, Angie here. Unfortunately, the Advent Media crapped out on me again. It freezes up here and you don't get audio until about the 16-minute, 29-second mark. Yes, I am looking at the StarTech stuff. Unfortunately, I may need 2 of them for each rig. In any event, sorry about that, and if you fast forward to about the 16-minute, 29-second mark, audio resumes. Sorry for the problems.
more rock ship based, which is like, you know, a little generic. But they give you tools to modify them. They give you tools to play with the bootloader to modify the recovery. And people have in the community, and they've allowed them out there where they're just trying to, you know, create a better kernel that's higher definition that gives you access to on-the-go ports. But as they were trying to do that, so you can load, you know, XBMC on there with your 2 terabyte hard drive to watch all your movies, at the same time, that's allowed you to put an injection-capable card on there and hide this on the back of a TV and SSH into it. It depends on what your objective is, if you want to use it for fun or malicious purposes. Yeah, sorry, that's an example of it. They're like sold out now because they're so old, and there's way newer versions coming out that are quad-core, octa-core now, that are blowing these things out of the water. So as long as you can do that same type of thing with that criteria where you're going to load somebody's modded software on there, you're set for the races. There's a lot of Android-specific apps where sometimes you can't unlock stuff, you can't break the bootloader, but you still want to use this as like a drop-in hack device. Dsploit is amazing. It's any Android device that's rooted, and if you're on a Wi-Fi network, is the man-in-the-middle master. Like, this thing really art poisons and does everything that you want. It's the best thing that I've seen compared to actually using apps straight out. But then you have the GUI ones where, sorry, not every, but if you've ever heard of Reaver, it's a type of Android, it's a type of Linux app to exploit WPS Wi-Fi networks and stuff to get in. You can run that on Android, and it's got this really terrible GUI that doesn't work half the time. You press a button, and what's it doing? It's just hanging for a bit. If you had command line, at least you can control it, right? If you had terminal, you can control what's going on. You can cancel it. You restart. When you're at the mercy of somebody's GUI, it's not the same, but at least it gives you that touchscreen input to do something. Ideally, now, Offensive Security used to have this on their site, and I feel like they took it off. They took the actual image off, but they've got several other ones for different ARM devices, BeagleBone Black, all kinds of other the Raspberry Pi 2, where you can take this really cheap ARM device and run a full version of Linux on it, just following their instructions. It's really simple in the sense where you flash a custom recovery, you flash a custom bootloader, you put an SD card in, and that recovery in that bootloader looks to the SD card to load your OS. And then you're off to the races. Okay, so going into the good stuff. So the Android repurposing is fun, and it's nice when you have an old device that you want to, make something of nothing with. But moving forward, we want a fully capable mobile device. So in your hands, I don't have to go anywhere. Everything's at my fingertips. x86 stuff. Why do I have to play around with ARM when I can use a real distribution on a tiny device? A little bit of finagling to get it going, but the first one I saw was HP Stream 7. It was a Windows 8.1 tablet that came out, and I feel like it was a loss leader where Microsoft wanted you to subscribe to Windows 8.1, and it was fun to give it a kick, but get out of my way. I want Kali. So it was a 64-bit processor. It's a quad-core 1.3 gigahertz. And because at least it had HP behind it, if you've ever had a laptop and tried to boot off live HP laptops, it's got the same type of bootloader, so it's kind of familiar. And it ran Windows smooth. What the fuck? So Linux is going to be a lot better. So that's what they wanted, to run stupid that. With a little hub and USB stick, you got Linux running on there instead. So the possibilities. Now that we can run anything we want on this little device, maybe Ubuntu Touch, so that you have a way to actually get in there, to actually interface with it. Windows 10 works, but it might just be a better thing to hack, use it as a sheep so that you can exploit it. You can virtualize Linux on these types of Windows devices, but once again, we're trying to get away with the translation. We want it to natively run on here so it's stronger and faster. You can dual boot. There's a couple of Windows apps you might need, so you can go back and forth, but that depends on your objective once again. So this was a pathetic attempt at trying to take an MP4 into a GIF. So I was going to show how smooth it runs. Yeah, not quite. But anyways, that's Kali Linux running on an HP Stream 7 tablet. It was a lot smoother. It's just when I put it into a GIF form, it came a lot choppier. But you've got the entire tool set of the live USB. So got on the go, and once again, whatever your objective is. And I can't stress that enough. So tiny hurdles coming with these x86 devices. BitLocker's funny, and that's only if you're going to dual boot. You got to disable that on the Windows side of stuff. Secure boot, they've been throwing at us with BIOS or UEFI systems where you have to turn secure boot off if you want to put anything else on here. And once again, I feel like that's why it was like a loss leader, and types of things like that are enabled so that that type of hacking is not allowed. Just get it out of your way and you can put whatever you want on there. So most UEFI systems are 64-bit, right? And most Linux distros, I think pretty well all of them, come with 64-bit UEFI loaders. This one uses a 32-bit one. So as soon as you put a 64-bit or a regular type of distro on there, it doesn't know what you're doing. And randomly, this device I ran into, it's got a kernel bug with its MMC, the solid-state drive, where it will hang for such a long period of time trying to access a part of it that it's not allowed to. It's a kernel bug. So you could actually make your own kernel and patch it your own way. We'll get into that in just a sec. So this is just a picture taken off Secure Boot. So this is on the Stream 7, and it looks really familiar, doesn't it? It's like your regular UEFI BIOS. Like, I've seen this type of thing before. How can I play with it? So that's just disabling it. You can sell I just did that, and I didn't change the boot order around yet, but you can put USB to the top so that as long as you got it plugged in after the race, just like any other device. So the EFI file, this is regurgitated, and like I said before, there's a lot of building blocks that make this stuff come together. So someone was trying to make Fedora for a Bay Trail tablet, which is the type of Intel Atom processor that's on this tablet. They came out with the 32-bit EFI boot, but their grub config file wasn't there. You know, you're not going to be able to load. So I stole an old one prior to when Kali did not support EFI. People had their own grub configs. So you steal that, add it with the new 32-bit EFI, and you actually get it to boot. So any Intel Bay Trail tablets coming out, if you use that EFI file, you make your live USB any which way you want, you know, UNetbootin or Rufus, add that directory to there. I'm going to have it available for anybody. Any Intel Bay Trail tablet, you can get to run any Linux distro you like on there, and get creative with that in any way you feel. So, sorry, this was that MMC error where it just hangs. The thing's trying to load, and over and over and over, it just keeps going. If I made that custom kernel and patched it, that's not going to happen. So after I install it, it'll be fine. But once again, I'm learning, and as soon as I can, I will make that available for anybody that's interested. In the meantime, though, if anyone does use my files, it might take about 3 or 4 minutes to boot up just going through these stupid error messages. So yeah, you know, you build it like a regular kernel, and try and make it lighter, because these devices aren't fully powered, but they're still a little better than what we're used to. Like, for example, the old Linux kernel, 3.18 or 3.17 that Kali's running on right now, doesn't have the touchscreen drivers or Wi-Fi on there. So as soon as you load it, you have to add like a USB type of keyboard to get functionality. Then you can compile the drivers, mod probe them, and then the thing works. Ideally, you make the custom one, you add it on there, and you don't have any of those problems. And once again, you can only add meta packages that you need. So if you're doing Wi-Fi hacking, why add all this other crap that, you know, just bogs you down? Ideally, one of my inspirations for this talk was last year there was an NSA playset one called Twilight Vegetable. And it was wonderful. I wanted to take that so that you didn't have to run on a desktop and you can run it mobilely anywhere you wanted. There's still a little bit of finagling I have to get there, but we're getting there. We're getting there so that you can take anybody's idea and use it anywhere you want. So generic made devices are awesome, but they're hit and miss. They have these weird kind of like innovations where they add different ports, and like it's got HDMI out on it with Bluetooth, and it's $50. Okay, how can I play with that? Ideally, if it's running an Intel chipset, as long as I can get to that bootloader, then I can do anything I feel like. So this was an example of, sorry, these pictures are terrible, I do apologize, of a Rockchip-based tablet where I've got several Android-specific apps like Dsploit and DroidSheep, BCMon on there. But with Rockchip's loader, you can install your custom recovery or a different boot image that's been modified and load Kali straight on there, or a different OS. That tablet cost me about $40, and on there it had the Broadcom 4329 chipset, so it was ready for injection. And it's so cheap that I can just leave it somewhere. I could, hack into something, and who gives a crap after if it gets stolen. Definitely shop around. Everybody's trying to sell you something, and there's so much competition out there, it's working in your favor. So just look at the tech specs that you need, and go anywhere that you feel. There's a point on Expansys, they were selling the Nexus 7 and the Nexus 4 for $150. It was like $75 a piece. And they're running, right now, they're fully supported by that Kali NetHunter distro that I was talking about. So each one of these is like a perfectly awesome device that you can throw around. It's almost like nobody cares about them anymore, and they're jaded, but they're good. And now some of these weird generic devices, now I hate to say like they come out of China, but most of them really do. This thing's running 8.1 and Android 4.4. So it's got a bootloader on there where I can possibly manipulate it and throw my own OS on there without having to reinvent that wheel. It's already got a bootloader. How do I get on there and say, get the hell out of here, I want to put Kali on there, I want to put Ubuntu on there, and load in that sense, because it's already x86 based, and the new kernel's got touchscreen Wi-Fi drivers. You don't have to do anything else. Now, you can make a hack box with some of these things. So like I said, with the Nexus 4 and that Nexus 7, they're almost throwaways, where, no, you don't want to throw away $75, but compared to traditionally how much these things used to cost us, it's frugal. So as long as you get creative, you can connect any on-the-go sensors you want, RTL, SDR, Wi-Fi. You could jam somebody's, let's just say a 4G network, and then make them connect on 2G, and run Twilight Vegetable, and go through their text messages. Depends on what you want, once again. Now, sometimes this stuff really does go wrong. And like I said, the best thing's having some kind of way to recover here. I bought, actually my dad got them for me, it was hilarious. He knows I love playing around with this stuff, so he bought 3 $75 tablets from Walmart, and, sorry, $25 tablets from Walmart for $75, and they're cheap as hell, they're pieces of crap, but, like, hey, maybe I can play around with this. I didn't back it up. I went into it right away and I said, let's root it. No, broken. At least I got 2 more to play with, and I'll try and I'll dump their regular system and see if I can load it on here. But I screwed it up because I didn't have a backup method. But with anything, right, you know what you're getting into, and that does happen. So what we're getting on to next, when these new Linux kernels do come out, they've got support for so many of these devices built in. You can build it on your own, you can add those driver support, but if it's already there, then you just have to worry about what your objective is. What are you trying to do with this device? You don't just need it to get this functionality, you want this functionality for a purpose. You want it to do something. So at least you can focus on that. Ideally, there's so many Samsung phones out there, the S3, the S4, the S5, now they're on the S6, right? Like, even the S3 is on par with the Nexus 4. It's a perfectly goddamn good piece of hardware, but people are throwing it away now. So at least you can rip it apart, you can rip it into pieces, and install Linux on there. Obviously, the new Nexus stuff is easy to deal with. Android Wear would be fun. It'd be fun to hack like a stupid little watch or something and run that stuff on there, but it's something we're going to get to. It's not quite as open as it'd like to be. Just a quick mention for NVIDIA stuff. I feel like they're always pushing their latest chipset and their new GPU or their little tiny ARM processor. So they sell their latest almost dev kit at like a rock bottom price. So as long as you can get into that, you can satiate that criteria we were talking about before, where you can get into the bootloader, you can get root access, then you have a top-end piece of hardware at your fingertips to, once again, do what you want to do. Hey, yeah.
I hear they might be having fire sales on the NVIDIA Shield tablets.
Oh, yeah? The new one that came out?
Yeah, the recall fire sales.
Oh, shit.
Batteries explode.
Oh, is that the case, eh? I did not hear about that. Shit. Was that on the latest one?
It was an older model.
Okay, fair enough. Fair.
Battery goes.
Not a very good shield, I guess, eh? And so, this is way too far away to talk about, but I feel like it's worth it. Has anybody heard about Project Aura yet? The Google project? That's where we want to be. These phones are, they're not modular. It's like everyone's selling me like the old Apple thing where I can't touch anything in my phone. I want an IBM-based PC where I can add my own fucking graphics card or device to it or change the processor when I feel like. Aura's getting there. So when it does, though, then I can add that RTL SDR dongle to there or module to it. I can add that the Wi-Fi chip that's got injection without having to redevelop it for this device. So eventually, I think that's where we want to be, but it's going to take a bit. So it's way too far away to really consider. Sorry, I feel like I went really quick with this, but I wanted to ask people questions on this where I'm not an expert with it. I really like talking about it, and a lot of people know a lot more about this than I do. Has anybody got anything to add to this that's...
So currently, what CG image formats are supported?
Sorry?
Oh. Currently, what... Oh.
I can hear you, don't worry.
So currently, what CD images formats are being supported? Is it like, ISO, DA, bin?
Yeah, you know what? It's mostly ISO stuff, but whatever you can get to live boot on a normal desktop PC, the objective is to do that on these tablets. If it can run like that there, I can pull it out of my desktop, plug it into this tablet, and get it to do the same thing. The worst part is, your interface, because it's a tablet, where's my keyboard, is touchscreen working and such. But, yeah, pretty well anything that you can get running on a desktop.
Question. So have you thought about doing any work with Blackbox?
Blackbox, sorry, what's that?
It's kind of like Kali, basically. It's just another disk.
Oh yeah, like an different distro. Yeah, there's like Pen 2 out there and different stuff. Absolutely, same type of thing. If those will run on your desktop PC, then you can get it to run on other x86 devices. If you just want Ubuntu to control your LED lights, around your house for Christmas time, it's the same thing. It really depends on your objective, once again. Sorry, does anybody else got anything to add on top of that? So I did skip through a lot of the information that I wanted to talk about, and I cut a lot of my slides out. I'm going to throw so much of of the actual abstract on top of my blog. Like I said, I'm not a big blogger, and I don't really care about followers and all that stupid stuff. But I want to make it accessible to everybody. So check it out after.
All right. So I got one more question. So currently, you're talking about quad cores. Is there support for like octa cores?
Oh, for support. Yeah, there's support for any type of device in that sense. As long as the Linux kernel can, then you're good to go. The quad-core devices were more fun because, yeah, they're quick and they're cheap. But yeah, as soon as the octa-core ones come out, they can harness it just the same as any kernel would. Yeah, so that's about it. I wanted to give a special thanks because, sorry, this was my first talk ever. I did originally go for Proving Ground, but they said there was too many, so they threw me in Common Ground. I didn't get a mentor, but I asked Soldier of Fortran for a little help, so I just want to give him a little plug there. Thanks so much for coming. I'm sorry I blazed through the talk really quick. If anybody has any questions, please. Yes, sir.
Can you get those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Shop around. Where's that? Sorry, go back to that slide. Yeah. Absolutely. eBay, Amazon. eBay is actually pretty good. I found just before, probably the first week of July, I was looking again for the prices. They're going for about 110, 120 US. So you can still play around with it. Mind you, they are getting a little dated, but as long as you're creative, they're awesome. I got one here if you want to play around with it after. But, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Anything else, guys? Yeah.
So I guess I'd toss in that a lot of the devices, I found even on Android, there's a lot more uses that are coming out. One case, you can use an RTL SDR in host mode, and you can actually use it to decode aircraft transmissions.
Absolutely,
So,
right, yeah.
That's a pretty cool thing you can do. There was another one I couldn't think of at the moment, but I did see where if you have devices laying around, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it.
Absolutely.
I don't know if
right.
anyone follows the trend of beer money, too. That's a way to hack. You just basically use your old devices, and there's various ads you can watch, and you get points. And when you get so many points, you can get gift cards. So they call it
yeah,
beer
so
money.
Exploit them in that sense, right? Absolutely. Okay. Not bad. Something to consider. Sorry, anything else, anybody?
Yeah, just a few ideas of getting devices nothing. You've got shops that have little bins for e-waste. So, if you got a friend in one of those shops, or, you might get a handful of devices that are pretty good at
Absolutely,
waiting
right?
for the tip.
And especially when you're first learning on that stuff, too, like I said, you're going to break it, right? If you've never done it before, you're going to fuck it up the first time. So at least you have something to play around with that's not so bad, right? And it's cheap. But absolutely. Thanks, dude. You again.
Yes. I see this as being a really good thing because it's. Yeah, I see this as being a really good thing because it's really eco-friendly. You know, it's like you really should try to preserve these old devices. They have a lot of life left in them.
Absolutely, right? And, until the chips are falling out of the motherboards on them, like, they're perfectly good, right?
Pretty much.
They're
It's like-
fast. And it's all about your creativity with it, right? As long as you get creative, you can do anything with them. It can run headless, so it's still fast enough. Sorry, anybody else? I do apologize. I did absolutely run through that talk, but
That's quite all right. That's quite all right. Well,
thank you
we
so
thank our
much for coming,
speaker.
guys. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
And I'm sure our speaker will be here for a little bit afterwards.
Yep.
you wanna
If
come
anybody
up
wants to
and,
come bug me about anything, please.